Come to the Well, a Christian podcast for women where we gather for real, faith filled conversations that heal the heart and renew your soul. I am Colleen, the founder of Sustainable, inviting women who feel stuck, weary, and uncertain to pause, step away from the noise and the world, and to find comfort and strength at the well. Today, I'm joined by Jennifer Brown of Next Level Coaching. She works with the whole person to develop clarity around why stressors are holding you back. Jennifer is a certified rest coach and is ready to share with us today how to remove stressors in our life and to achieve the life you want. Welcome, Jennifer. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. Jennifer, could you just tell the listeners a little bit about you and how you got started in this and just get to know you a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I had a less than stellar childhood that gave me lots of opportunities to learn to be flexible, forward thinking. I chose to never be a victim in anything that I did. I always just chose to keep my eyes forward and going. And I knew I always wanted to be a mom. So when I was able to do that, became a mom, I also gave my life to the Lord back in 1992.
Wow.
And that helped heal, as we all know, anybody who has made that decision for Christ, that helped heal a lot of my childhood hurts. But there were still things that was residual that continued along. There were still these residual things within my life that never seemed to go away. And
Okay.
about 10 years ago, I met with a business mindset coach. And I learned to speak to myself better. I learned that words matter. Like, for example, instead of saying, don't forget, say, please remember. And it's super important that when we speak to ourselves and when we speak to others, that we say positive and encouraging things. So the noise from my life previously, that's another level that there was healing that took place. But there were still situations that I couldn't seem to get away from, that I just couldn't change. My best friend decided to go ahead and became a basic rest coach. And during her training, she had to do student volunteers. And I, of
Great.
course, decided to do that. The changes that started to happen within my life was amazing. And I realized that this is something that I need to do. And I'll give you a quick example. I had been a stay-at-home mom. I had been an entrepreneur with my husband, but I was in a phase when this all happened that I was working for somebody. And I was one of the directors of their organization, and they gave me unlimited, they let me treat it like it was my own business. And I was
Wow.
working 50 to 60 hours a week. And I was rocking it, making wonderful changes within the organization, and I was having so much fun. But I eventually got to the point that it was like I was raising my children again. And when you are managing lots of people, you get in that stage. And I thought, what am I doing
Great.
here? But I would have, because of no fault of any particular person, it was a large organization. When people were coming through and they came to my front desk, they had been through other cogs of the wheel of this organization.
Uh-huh.
And different things were being told to different people. And by the time they came to me, they were really mad sometimes because they had been what they felt lied to. And I understood. And I can't fix what had happened prior to when I got there. I had to
Right.
deal with it then. But what that did is that triggered in me this self-protective mode. And I had gotten really good at masking it, and people didn't know. But after I had settled that really upset person and made it right, then that I would continue through the workday. But I had been so stressed out by it that I would deal with it in unhealthy manners in the evening. I would tell
Right.
my husband about it. I got threatened today and how mad it made me. And can't believe this is happening again. All of that over and over again, trying to work my way through. And sometimes an event would last for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Well, one day I had a client, I would say in 3 months, it was the fifth time I had an angry individual coming up, and there was sweat on their brow. Their hand was shaking. I knew this individual because I hired his wife,
Okay.
and there was a miscommunication between us, and I didn't know. I knew this
Mm.
individual 2 weeks ago stepped down as a young law enforcement officer because they were creating a new life. I knew this person was very capable, and my front desk was not going to hold him back from whatever was going on.
Yeah.
And where my brain would have normally kicked in, instead I was calm. And I thought, man, I wonder what's bothering him.
Yeah.
And Colleen, in about 60 seconds, he started apologizing to me. It was as if something strange was happening between us that I had never seen. It had never
Hmm.
happened in all my adult life before. And the situation in 90 seconds, it used to take up to 10 minutes to calm somebody down and get them moving on. And it went to where he was apologizing and asking how he could help me out. And then he was like, wait a second, what happened? Why I was so mad in here when I came in, and now I'm
Hmm.
so diffused. And there was nothing magical that happened within it. It was how I was responding
Right.
totally changed the dynamic. And that night when my husband got home, because we both work for the same organization and we both work long hours, I said, "Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to tell you. I got somebody came in and was really angry and yelling at me." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I forgot." And it
Hmm.
changed my entire day. And God really laid on my heart, what if, what if you could help women coming out of the cycle of abuse to
Right.
remove the triggers that keeps them in and keeps them back in? What life changing that would be, because we show up differently for conversations. Our stress level is completely different. And that's the moment that I said, I need to go and learn how to do this.
Right. That's amazing. It sounded like you were holding on to a lot of their anger and resentment for such a long period of time until you got this technique. That's really cool.
An example I like to do with my clients to kind of help explain. So, REST stands for Rapid Reprogramming of Emotional Stress Technique. And it was created by Dr. Cindy Scholes. And she did it through a whole bunch of healing modalities over the years. She is actually a neuroscientist. And
Oh,
so there was a whole lot of science that I learned in doing what I was doing. But when I try to explain, because there is so much science and you don't want to bog anybody down, and that's not exactly, honestly, my strong suit, anyways.
right, right.
I kind of liken it to imagine you're 12 months old and you've got a pacifier. You love your pacifier. You and your
Yeah,
pacifier, great relationship, right? And one of your guardians takes your pacifier away, says you've got teeth, you don't need to have it anymore. Well, that
right,
12-month-old does the best they can with the feelings that they're feeling and their ability to express themselves, and they choose how to do it. Maybe they're going to throw themselves on the floor and throw a great big old tantrum. Maybe they're going to draw themselves in and just become really quiet and get to the point where they think, I can't trust the people around me. Or maybe they're going to just start crying uncontrollably and be moody, or, all the things. We can imagine a 12-month-old and we see their different fits and we don't understand because they don't have that capability.
right.
So imagine they're 6 months older, they're a year and a
Hmm.
half old, and somebody goes and takes something away from them. Their brain says to them, the part that holds memories and the emotion says, wait a minute, we've been here before, and this is what we did. We threw ourselves on the floor and threw a tantrum,
Right,
and we lived. Let's do it again.
right,
And what starts happening is, from what we call the original event, that pacifier,
right,
there begins to be this chain that happens. Now imagine this individual's 45 years old. They just lost their job. They're in a divorce, whatever it may be.
right,
And they
right.
feel like throwing this huge tantrum. And cognitively, they know I'm too old. I shouldn't be behaving
Hmm.
this way, but they can't seem to stop themselves.
Right,
Well, that was me. That was all of my responses to somebody coming in to my presence in my sphere and being angry. And I had my way of dealing with it. And so my rest coach helped me get back to that original event. We dealt with the emotions that were associated with it, worked with my now adult brain, and soothed it. And in one session, it was taken care of. Sometimes it takes multiple sessions
right,
because with anything, there's multiple facets. So I'm going to
right.
share one more thing about that I also love. I had one client said, Jen, one thing I love about this work is we don't have to pick scabs.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept.
So I have plenty of childhood trauma that I do remember. And I'll have somebody come in and say, something happened when I was 12. And I said, that's great. That might be it. But the reality is often, in fact, I've never had a client that was the original event. It's something as simple back to a pacifier event, like
Hmm.
my example. And so we don't have to redo with trauma. We're just stopping the cycle that keeps us in the pattern where we're at.
Right. So I mean, you talk about like breaking, that cycle, and
Yes.
almost sounds like, a coach that I work with talk about patterns of behavior, breaking those patterns of behavior. Is that
Mhm.
similar of what you do, or is it a little different?
It's a little different because I'm not teaching my
Okay.
clients to break a pattern of behavior. We,
Great. Okay.
we go and we find out the original event, what triggers, what's the
Okay.
beginning part, and we soothe that and take care of it, and then all the chain of events stops. There's not that trigger anymore.
Wow.
It just
Sounds, I
goes back
mean,
to there.
yeah, that sounds like so many people need that because, that pacifier example just really hit home, because I watch my two granddaughters and it's like makes me think, okay, I shouldn't be taking things away. I should be saying, hey, can we put that down? Or like, what do you, as a mom, because there might be
Mhm.
some young moms listening, what do we do to kind of recognize that, wow, we probably shouldn't be grabbing the pacifier out of their.
I think, and as a mom who's raised 7 kids, I think the one thing that we underestimate how much our children are feeling and aware of their circumstances. We tend to discount them, and they are little humans, and they can't explain themselves the way that they can when they're 12 years old, 30 years old. And so it's just having consideration. I always chose to talk to my children when they were young. In fact, I had a
Right.
pediatrician, say it's quite remarkable how much you talk to your children. And even though they can't speak English, they talk back to you. And so it's that respect that we have for them.
Right.
And like you said, what can we do instead of just taking the pacifier and deciding they're done? Can we start giving them other things too when
Right.
they're that way instead of the pacifier? Are they using the pacifier to soothe when they're tired? Okay, can we give them a
Hmm.
blanket or a favorite shirt of ours that maybe the child wants to carry around or some other form of that? And then just know sometimes it's okay, they can grow out of it.
Right. Right. And I think, both of us being, moms, it's like we do the best we can at
Yes.
the time. And we all have, and you used it early on, shattered past or like
Less
a
than stellar is what I
less,
like.
I mean, I like less than stellar past because we all have those less than stellar pasts. And we've been raised on other less than stellar parents coming
Mhm.
from the 30s or 40s or, whatever. It's kind of, it runs down generationally. And
Yes.
we have to find a way to soothe ourselves and figure out a way to change that neurotransmitter like you're saying, basically.
Yes. Yes. And I think as parents, we need to give ourselves grace because, coming from a biblical standpoint of life and parenting, Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and it was promised to us not to be easy from that moment
Right.
on. God knew that, and God made our brains and know that they would be strong enough to handle it. And so, adversity is good for us. And
Right.
so if we've made mistakes, we could have done better. We need to give ourselves grace and understand this is part of the child's growing up. I wish anybody had a childhood like I do? No, I don't.
Right.
But I am strong in the way that I am because of my childhood.
Right. And I think a lot of us don't realize that till like later on.
Mhm.
We maybe blame the childhood experience or try to put a label on it. And then we realize later on, it's like, God meant this to happen for healing and for me to take some time to really do some inner reflection, get a rest session, or find the right resources to pin it down,
Yes. And
you know.
sometimes we don't know. We
Right.
just we don't know what the problem is. We tend to because our brains are trying to reason the best we can. The other thing is with our brain and our memories is it's like the telephone game. And every
Oh,
time
yeah.
we pull out a memory, we are that much older than last time we thought of such a thing. And we have that much more worldly experience. For a child, they have more language and everything else. And the memory
Right.
alters, alters, alters. All you have to do is ask individuals at a family reunion what happened when Grandma Sally
Yeah.
went to sit in her chair and slipped and fell and missed the chair. You're going to end up
Right.
with a lot of versions of the very same eyewitnesses.
And,
And
and
so,
that's so interesting that you say that because, growing up, you have brothers and sisters and siblings, and you have the 7 kids. I'm sure you would ask them, like I would ask my brother, like, don't you remember, that Christmas that, Grandma Sally fell out of the chair, or someone, I remember an incident specifically that I think it was a birthday party, and one of the girls at the party reached over on the dining room table and with her napkin and just lit the candle and then threw it on the ground. And thank God my dad was a firefighter. He just like put it out. But my brother like, no, I don't remember that. He has a whole different rendition. Like, where were you?
Exactly. Exactly.
It's just really like interesting that you say that. So it's funny. I mean, it's pertinent that we're doing it. Not so much funny, this time of year. We're doing this in the season of the holiday season where there's so many, stresses. And you brought up,
Mhm.
Adam and Eve, and they were like kicked out of the garden. So they're pretty much their pacifier was taken away, and you folks are on your own.
Exactly.
It even makes me think of, and I've been reflecting on this since, Sunday night is, Mary and Joseph, you
Hmm.
know, she conceived it, like, I think she was 14, if I'm not mistaken, very young, regardless of her
Yes.
age. She was young. And, he wasn't the father, so
Right.
you pretty much have an unwed mother. So talk about stress and, being kicked out. And there really was a lot of adversity in that time that I don't think today we recognize.
No, we don't. She was betrothed to Joseph, and so they were as good as married, but they were not living together as man and
Right.
wife. It was pretty much a done deal. And so for him, he had, as the Bible says, he had the choice to divorce her quietly, was what he was going to do. And so she had to have total faith in God that this was God's child and that she was the chosen one and that things were going to work out. God in his infinite wisdom sent an angel to Joseph and said, no, 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 it's okay. Marry her, continue on. It's all good.
You on.
Wouldn't that be great, Colleen, if God did that for our husbands? So, no, 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 your wife is
No,
on the right track. No.
I think he does sometimes to our husband, but it may take like 40 years of marriage. And I think for
Exactly.
some women, it's they stop too soon because of maybe a stressor, or they needed to meet you sooner in their marital relationship and not to divorce, because it could have been, like you said, a little blip or a little stressor that you could fix in those steps in that relationship.
Yes. I have an example actually of a client who came to me and they had heard from somebody else. Most of my clients come by word of mouth from someone else. And so I worked with that client, and I think I was on their third session. And there's no set number of sessions anyone needs to have.
Right.
I'm actually an advanced rest coach. That was an additional 9 months of training, and then we had all
Okay.
these requirements to do. I found out as I was in my basic training that if you wanted to work with people that have had trauma, that you needed to
Hmm.
be an advanced coach. And so I actually started advanced training before I finished my basic and just went full in because I knew that's where God was leading me to do.
Right.
And so this individual, I had worked with them for, back, I apologize. So if somebody who has had trauma and they know that they have trauma issues that they want to deal with, we often say 5 to 10 sessions is good because
Right.
there's a peeling of an onion that happens. Let's say the person really has an issue with being disrespected. Well, we take
Mm,
care of disrespected, and then underneath there's something else that's equally been a problem, but it's been
right.
suppressed by there's going to have numerous things that they're really struggling with. And we would
Hmm.
hate to rip a band-aid off and leave them bleeding, right? So we want to
Right.
work with them within a reasonable time frame and get those. Most people, they could do 1, 3, 5 sessions and
Right.
be really great. So this individual decided that they had done 3 sessions and it was working well, and they kept saying to their spouse, you really should go and do this. And so their spouse did book a session with me. But on the first client, I'm going to say client A because I care about privacy, that
Right.
matters.
Oh, of course.
Client A, they said on their third session that they just didn't think that their marriage was going to make it.
Uh,
And part of what I do, trying to find out what people's best life is,
uh,
what is it, what are their goals? What do they want to have happen in their life, and what do they feel is stopping them? And I learned so much just by people talking. It may not even be what they think it is. And so we help deal with that. But when I started seeing client B, the spouse, when we got to their third session, they also said privately, because they had neither spouse were talking to one another about this.
oh,
And
okay.
they said, I don't think my marriage is going to make it.
Wow.
That was a big moment for me and God
Yeah.
because I thought I could make the focus of both these clients to heal what's going on between the two of them.
Right.
But as a rest coach, I have been trained that it is not about me. It is about
Right.
the client. And what does the client want to work on there? And when you ask either one of those clients, what does your very best day look like? One of them is around a lot of people and the other one is all by themselves. Now,
Right.
that's a difficult marriage thing to heal to start with.
Yes.
We never once dealt with their marriage problems.
Oh,
The woman we did have, as can be typical with women, they talked a little bit more about it. Never did. One had 10 sessions, the other one had 15 sessions. They said it, they both ended at about the time they thought that that was good for them. And they said, Jen, we just lie in bed at night holding each other's hands and dreaming about our future. They have had two more children. I'm getting
oh,
goosebumps.
great. Yeah.
He got the job of his lifetime. They were stuck
Wow.
financially. They have no problems with money now. And
Nice.
their marriage is renewed. It is just the most amazing feeling. And
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful because what I did prior to that, and I told you I worked 50, 60 hours a week,
Yeah.
and I made a difference in people's lives, and it was very rewarding, and it was great for the company, and I love the owners and stuff. But this is next level. I
Right.
get to do.
Yeah. And I like that you kind of wrapped it back full circle. It's next level coaching
Yes,
because you're really impacting lives.
yes,
It's really making a difference in like how good does that feel from a standpoint of, doing God's work. We all know that, we all want to hear that, you're a good and faithful servant, Jen. You did what I asked of you when I created you. We
yes,
all want that, but it's great. I could just feel your energy. Like I just feel so worthy, like I'm doing his work, and I just feel so loved and respected. You can just feel that it's like this is greater work than working for that company, which you loved,
yes,
but this is just like that next level. I like how it's like it's hard to explain to like listeners what it means when it's like next level. It's almost like we peeled back the full onion and we've uncovered like this is where we all need to be in that next level of life, which is almost, I'm thinking, like that eternal. That next level is how do we connect with God and the encounters of the people we work with or meet and give them an encounter that then they make their lives different.
yes. What I get to do with next level coaching is when you remove that stressor, like my example for myself, when I'm
Right.
encountered with somebody, I show up differently. My stress level is down, then I'm able to be more effective at everything else that I do. And for this young couple that had come to me, and I worked with them, not as a marriage counseling kind of a thing, but it ended up being that they are living, when they showed up, they're pretty typical early, a little bit older than 20s married couple with the problems that that generation has, and they weren't expecting anything different out of their marriage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now they have expectations without me telling them what to do or what they ought to expect or anything. They just began to create it because all those triggers are gone.
Right.
And you have the ability, in this case, to listen to your spouse. And instead of your spouse saying, well, I don't like that soup that you made, and instead of the individual who spent the time to do it getting mad, they think, I wonder if it has too much salt or doesn't have enough
Right.
seasoning. They don't take it personally anymore. That's amazing not to take things personally. I'll tell
Oh,
you,
yeah.
I've told my children, I want a do-over in parenting
Right.
because I know I was a good parent, but I would be like next level stellar parent
Right.
now with
Right.
where I'm at.
Right.
Between the business mindset, and I was saved at the time that I started having my family, but just sometimes you just wish you could do it over. But I'm
Well,
grateful because I'm a
but you
walking testimony now.
right, but you are next level for the next generation, for your kids now, whatever ages they are, you're still at that next level. So when the grandbabies come, we do get a do-over in a
Yes.
way because the kids don't have the time to give that extra special care and attention that grandparents have because we don't have the work. We don't have as much worries. We've already, we work and we have enough right now.
Yes.
We're not stressed out about, oh my God, I gotta get to the gym, or I gotta, make the cookies and the kid's not taking a nap or they're not behaving.
Yes.
We're just like, whatever. If I make
Yeah.
cookies, I make cookies with them. If I
Yeah.
don't, tomorrow's another
You want
day.
cookies for lunch? Okay.
We can give them back. So you are next level in your kids' eyes. So you are doing a do-over. So
Yes. Thank you.
that's really great. So share with the listeners. This has been just like a great conversation, and I could go on all day, and we could give many. And I just think about that angel, and I really do think that you are an angel, and you definitely found your calling in next level coaching. So share with everybody how they can connect with you. And I know you mentioned that it's kind of word of mouth, and it's
Mhm.
private. Just let our listeners know, because I know they want to start the first of the year off
Yes.
being unstuck.
Yes, I appreciate that. So what I do is I generally have, especially if it's not somebody that I, perhaps already know, I offer a free consultation. And so there's a web link that I'm going to make sure that you have and you can put in the
Right.
description notes. And in there, it gives a little more information about what I do. There's a short 7-minute video that kind of explains what the rest technique is about. And there's a way from there where they can do a 20-minute consultation. And there I'll kind of hear some of their hopes and their dreams and get some of that on there. And
Right.
then they book a first session. The first session is always going to be longer than any other
Of
one
course.
because there's a learning process and whatnot. But I also have some testimonials that I've put on Instagram. It's not a very impressive page at this point because it's not my focus. Like I said, I go a lot by word of mouth, but they can find me at nextlevelcoaching.jb for Jennifer Brown. So
Nice.
either of those will work and we can get started.
That's great. And I will definitely make sure we have in the show notes. But ladies, comment if you really this episode has really hit your heart. Next level. And I'll make sure that I message you the direct link if you can't find it in the show notes. So you can book that free session with our angel Jennifer from Next Level Coaching, because this has been just an awesome conversation. And I know you've impacted so many lives that will be changed in 2026. So thanks for joining us at Come to the Well. If today's episode inspired you, commit next level coach or just next level to connect with Jennifer or myself, and I will definitely share her link so you can definitely release some stressors that you have in your life to desire the life you desire. Ladies, thanks for coming to the well, where hope is found and the desires are met at the well. Until next time, be well. Thanks so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.